Hello everyone and welcome to yet another live coding and chill. I'm your host Johnny, delighted to be here. Hope you're having an amazing week. Today we'll be building a brand new app because I came across this viral sensation that maybe you've heard about called 1 million checkboxes, where every checkbox you click is actually clicked for everyone in the world. So you're updating the state of everyone, of any one of these 1 million checkboxes, and it updates for everyone in the world. You can see how many checkboxes you have checked, how many are still checked, and how many total are checked, and you can just stare at the screen and see people trying to check their own boxes. Sometimes you create these massively online browser-based games and you see a community ramp up, and then they try to take a corner of them and make a little message like hello world or whatever else. It's quite fun. It's a viral sensation. And the reason I'm excited and I thought that I should highlight this is that it can lead us into talking about solutions that are very, very relevant nowadays, like Websockets, and some that we haven't used in the past. So Cloudflare Pages, Cloudflare Workers, Cloudflare Concrete Storage. There are so many things that Cloudflare provides, and we haven't really talked about Cloudflare at all. We're using a lot of ourselves for the previous project. We used Fly.io, but it's been, especially in the SvelteKit community, Cloudflare, one of the services to watch out for, one of the infrastructure plus providers that are really, really good, really, really cost efficient. And when you're working with WebSockets, I think their integration with their Cloudflare workers can be exactly what we need to solve something like this. So we've talked a little bit about WebSockets in the past when we were playing with ChatGPT 3.5 and then ChatGPT 4, because we had a WebSocket connection that streamed back that on the client side, we sent a message to our generative QA bot, and then the server would push a response back, but that's at least 1 year ago now. And we'll see how it plays with the solution we'll try today. We'll start smaller just by integrating a single project into Cloudflare Pages. Let's say that's the most simplistic way to deploy with Cloudflare. Maybe, like, it's not a static website, so maybe not. But anyway, we'll keep increasing the complexity as we usually do in these streams and all the playlists that we've done. So what I was doing earlier to prep for this stream is take the Trivia Train app, which you can still find on triviatrain.app, and play the latest quiz by clicking the play button. If you haven't played it already, I'll create a new one soon. And putting this into a monorepo. I thought for our use case, where we'll probably need a UI frontend or a meta framework on the frontend, but also Cloudflare workers that would be responsible for maintaining the WebSocket connections. It seems that every time you update a Cloudflare worker, all its state disappears. So even if you're using durable objects, they would reset to their initial values. So for this one, I want them to be independent. I want the UI, I want the website where the user goes in the browser, clicks and plays the checkbox game to be independent to the thing that keeps the state of which checkboxes are actually clicked or not. So I can make a UI change or even deploy different games without missing the state of what we've accomplished here. Because maybe you spend a lot of time trying to create that hello world drawing. Maybe you try to work together with a community to make a little island here. It's quite fun, so it's the same to just say, oh, I've deployed, so reset. I've upgraded some dependencies, so everything gets lost. So that's why I want to separate the two services. Also opens us up to deploy something that's in a completely different languages, maybe not TypeScript, even because something like this is actually one of the few projects where the vision means that we will need a lot of performance. Nowadays, a lot of the popular frameworks you can do well enough for most of the ideas to come to life without many performance concerns. But with something like this, where you are potentially literally rendering 1 million checkboxes, which are stateful HTML elements, and maintaining who knows how many active connections, then you may get into an actual performance issue and you may want to benchmark what this solution with Node is capable of. Where's the bottleneck? Maybe you can try using Bun as your WebSocket server as well, see how well that goes. But maybe you'd want to use like Elixir or Phoenix. Like you may want to really experiment with many different options of the thing that is gonna be maintaining the WebSocket connection there. So working with a monorepo makes this a bit easier. So separating UI, we know it's going to be SvelteKit, but the backend, who knows, could be anything. We will start with TypeScript today for that, but we'll see how it goes. And yeah, I'd say most of the app ideas that I hear don't need that much performance, but this one, the whole fun of it is how many checkboxes are there and how many active connections, how many people can be on the page and actually click around and see the updates. So it is actually crucial to see this. Of course, there are more serious use cases where performance does matter, but I'd say your average startup idea is not gonna make or break by whether it can handle like 1 million items of anything rendered on the DOM. Right, so I took this trivia train, I've put it in the monorepo that we had already created for the Johnnify Premium website, and all the code is available if you actually sign up for Johnnify Premium, but you're welcome to follow along all the streams that we've done with all these projects, because we keep increasing the complexity, and step by step we arrive to this monorepo with turborepo solution that may look a bit extreme, but if you start from the beginning, then you'll see that we are really building up on this. And feel free to ask in the chat if you want me to clarify anything. I'm always happy to respond, and even do focus streams where we dial things back and we talk about a specific solution to a problem that may be a bit more complicated. After all, things change, especially in front-end land as well, but everywhere in tech very rapidly. So revisiting stuff that we've done in the past is a good idea in any case. All right, so a lot of preamble here. Maybe I'll talk a bit more about this, of what is actually there in just a moment. Again, as always, let me know in the chat what you're working on, and if you're coding along with me, if you're doing something even more fun, although I'll find that hard to believe, I'll be the judge of that. And I'll keep track of the timestamps so I can add chapters at the end of the stream, so you can skip me rambling too much and go to the things that you really want to see. Right, so before we get to actually rendering stuff on the screen, what do we have? I've taken, as mentioned, the trivia train app that we were left with at the end of the previous stream, and essentially put it in here and change some CSS around. We're using Fancier as the component library, as the copy and paste to component library, which has a theme generator where you can change a few CSS variables and then end up with slightly different colors. So for variety, now I went with a Cloudflare orange. It felt like more appropriate. We still have all the login methods that we had in Trivia Train. These take a bit of time to set up because you need to go to Google, set up client IDs, client keys, go to tweets, GitHub, do this for dev and production is what I like to do. It takes a bit of time, but that's by the by. This still saved me quite a lot of time. I wouldn't have been able to do this stream on this subject today if I didn't start from the starters that we've created over time, including these quite boring, but in theory essential terms and privacy policy pages that Google Auth, for example, says you need to have this if you want to log in by Google. Does this actually work, or should I hang up my principal software engineer credentials? The answer is yes, although the app that we're actually going to be building, the checkbox app, is not going to be using any logged in user functionality. Don't think so. But we had it, we have like the toes and all of that. Why get rid of it? Maybe we'll have other games that may make use of your avatars and stuff. There are lots of those massively online browser games that I really like. So let me know if you have suggestions where we should pivot with this. But this is called Trivia Train app. I've put it inside a monorepo, and the monorepo is using the PNPM workspaces conventions, where we've defined that actually the packages The web apps are inside the apps directory, and any packages. So if you have like a common CSS component library or something like that, even though nowadays maybe you wouldn't really want to do something like this, would be in this directory. Anyway, I only have apps, the web app, and in-memory database we can use with local development, and we're using Turborepo to make this monorepo run. This allows me to do commands like in the root of the repository. Just a pnpm dev will start up both the UI, the SvelteKit app, and the in-memory database that I may want the local app to be connecting to. Especially before I push this to production, I always work with the in-memory database. And if I want to format just on the root of the repo, you do this and it works for any project inside. It's very, very helpful. Again, you may want to separate your backend with like a Fastify API to your frontend, which may be a SvelteKit app, could be Next.js, could be anything. And even non-TypeScript backends or anything you want really. And having a monorepo setup here is helpful. I've also used it in the past to have like my email templating, like my marketing and sign up stuff in a different project on its own, using React email, using other things, and having something like Turborepo, which essentially you can set up to scan the package JSONs of each project and be able to bulk run all of them. So for the web app, we have the dev script, which runs with dev. And for the database app, we have the dev script, which runs TursoDev, which runs the local Superbase, the local Turso database, pointing to a specific file here. Turborepo makes it possible, so I just run the one pnpm dev command, and then it runs everything. You can do the same for running all your linting and formatting and all your tests. And it is quite handy with that. Although people in big businesses keep telling me that one of the other benefits is that it is great with casting build outputs, only running the commands in the repos that have changes and that sort of thing, which can save you in the long run in compute time, in GitHub action time. If you are at the enterprise level, these things can add up to quite a bit of money. So that's handy as well. But in our stage for this app, that's not something that we'll be too concerned with. It's more likely we'd be concerned that, oh, we should have invalidated that cast and it didn't actually rebuild. That will cost us more time. But for enterprise solutions and more battle-tested solutions, it's always nice to be able to hit the cast every time. So I've talked about the in-memory database here, and the web app is really trivia train with a few changes. As always, I made the effort to like create new favicons and open graph icons and all of that. But really, it's how we left the trivia train with some of the routes that we didn't need, like the play quiz route, for example, editing quizzes, creating quizzes, just put to the trash, removed forever. Right, and we're also running migrations automatically. Reload this for the underline to go away. Player tests should run after we manage to deploy to Cloudflare Pages. Let's see, I'm excited to see if that happens. These are also things that we've set up and shown. Github Actions running, end-to-end tests, integrations tests with MSW as well, unit tests, Vitess tests as well, and database migrations. So let's see if this has definitely saved me time so far. Let's see if it actually works. The badges are also set up as well, and for now everything seems to be green. Cool. So time for fun stuff, some UI before we go back to DevOps and talking. Let's render an HTML checkbox, and we'll just do a vanilla one. We won't do like Fancier, you know, one of those that actually does respect my operating system preference of the purple color being my favorite color. And me being on dark mode and preferring dark mode, so you can see that it has by default that dark shade and the purple detail there. If I was emulating, maybe we'll show it later. But coding time. So the game itself, 1 million checkboxes, doesn't actually have a splash screen, but I will put this in the play route, maybe just to help counter some bot traffic as well. Sometimes bots don't click every link, they just go to the homepage and try to be naughty. But maybe I'll put it on the homepage. Guess the idea is that maybe we'll have a few different games, so that's why we may want to have different play routes. Maybe you have like play/checkboxes or something like that. Anyway, first task of the day is to unminimize the Chrome window, which crashed for some reason. Always auspicious. But it will be fine. So for now, as mentioned, we want the play route to render a checkbox. In SvelteKit, you need to reflect the URL path to where you've put your code. So in source routes play, we have a +page.svelte that indeed has this to do to render checkboxes. And in here, the links here, we'll render one checkbox with a legend. Maybe we'll do like 10. We'll see. Let me know how many checkboxes you want to start with. Copy this example, paste it in here. There it is. And you can see that if we bring up the Chrome command palette here, if we emulate prefers color scheme light, prefers color scheme light, but I guess here, instead of emulating anything, we've already messed with the toggle button, so we just need to press this and then we are good to go. So you can see on light mode, background is white, and a slightly different shade of purple, maybe with like more or less saturation. And it's quite nice that even the focus respects what I'm doing by default. But hey, we'll bring Sats in eventually because people love more complicated stuff. Anyway, it's toggle checkboxes for everyone around the world. And we won't give it ID or name, I guess. Or a label. Maybe just a single input. Maybe we do want the label. Not sure. We'll see later. Doesn't really matter. And that's it for the checkbox, I suppose. And the moment you do this, we don't have any svelte state or anything like that. So the browser takes over and will take care of unchecking and checking the input itself, the checkbox itself. Checkboxes are just HTML inputs with a type of checkbox, by the way. So we've got that. It's a quick win to get us going. Next up is to deploy to Cloudflare Pages and see if their GitHub integration is actually seamless. Vercel has great seamless integration with GitHub, so I'm quite excited to see if it's the same with Cloudflare. Also, like I saw this pop up about Chrome crashing, and I wonder, was it the 1 million checkboxes website that made it crash? Is there a memory leak there? I think that's quite likely, actually. So that's quite fun. Let's see if we can do better. But I was talking about this. With Fly, we needed to do more DevOps, like GitHub Actions to deploy to Fly, like made us feel a bit more legit on that side of the tech engineering startup. But this should be easy. It should be more complicated when we move on to the Cloudflare workers, but for now, let's see. First, let's comment. Let's say feature render a single toggleable checkbox and push this to prod, which doesn't deploy anywhere. But as mentioned, you may find this in Johnnify Cloudflare Pages, which just updated before the stream, just put together this with quite a bit of instructions. Anyway, we've put these chains. Let's see if it's as simple as clicking a few buttons. The SvelteKit docs to talk about the differences between the adapter auto, which we're currently using, the adapter Cloudflare, and the adapter Cloudflare workers. And those note that unless you have a specific reason to use workers, it's better to go with Cloudflare because it does have things like the easy few-click GitHub integration, preview deployments, and that sort of thing. Workers is a bit more complicated, but you may need it for features like the WebSocket connections and the durable storage. But my idea for this is, again, keep the SvelteKit app separate and then have a bespoke app that's just doing the Cloudflare workers that will be deploying separately. So one part, not necessarily needed, is that we can go to our Svelte config, and instead of the adapter auto, we can use the adapter Cloudflare, which would deploy to Cloudflare pages. Adapter auto would also figure out that that Cloudflare is trying to build the app and use the specific adapter, but explicitly using the Cloudflare adapter will give us some things like our code having better intelligence, better understanding that you are in Cloudflare, so you have access to this environment, these things in the environment. So that's neat, and that's why we'll switch this. All we need to do is change the name really, and then go to our package.json and say that instead, don't need those things either. Nope. Instead of adapter auto, we want adapter Cloudflare, which happens to be, in which version? VS Code will look it up for me. 4.6. Higher number, more confidence. And let's make sure to npm install here. Just in case, just because we're changing the adapter. Let's restart our servers. Seems like it started fine. Still looks fine. All good. And we can add everything and switch to Cloudflare adapter. Let's switch Cloudflare adapter. Sync that. And on the code side, we did this not necessary step. Again, this really helps the DevX as VS Code will now be smarter in auto-completion, knowing that the environment we're working with is Cloudflare. There are also quite a few options in the docs that we may want to override, but the defaults are sensible, so we don't need to mess with them for now. What we need to do is go to actually Cloudflare, where I do have an account. Let's see if it's gonna want me to log in again. No, all good. As a reminder, we did use Cloudflare as a domain registrar, and it worked fine, it worked great. And I guess that's validation that when you use a product and it hassle-free and it just works, then you're more likely to try things out from the same company. So here you go. Started with Cloudflare Registrar. Today, Cloudflare Pages. If that works seamlessly, we're going into Cloudflare Workers and more. So that's quite fun. So they should have, in my account, Workers and Pages setting. Not a worker for this one. I want the Pages one, which is connected to my GitHub account, personal account, and the Johnnify organization. Apparently it forgot. And it does know, it seems like it's listing the things by order of push. So it does know that this is the thing we've pushed last. Vercel also does this. This is a fun thing for sure. Nice little touch. Production branch is this. Interesting. Framework preset. You don't need this, but we are doing SvelteKit, so why not do this? The build command should be npm build. And this is the output directory. But we're doing Monorepos, so maybe that's the thing that we should look into, because the path is not this. So the path, since we are a monorepo, it should be apps web. That's definitely something to look up. And we do have environment variables. We do have many things that, well, not many things. We have a few things. We have the database connection with Turso, and we have the login methods. Wow, it's the zoom thing that makes Chrome crash. That's not what I expected. So for this project, we have the Turso database and we have the Google Tweets and GitHub, which have secret environment variables. So that's something to fill in that step when we make it there again. So let's go again. Should be quicker. Workers and pages, overview, pages, connect. And this one, begin the setup. This is the production branch. It is SvelteKit. The command should be npm run build. This is the output directory, but the root directory, we said that it should be apps web. And we want to add some environment variables here. Just to double check, let's just Google. From this, I think you just, they say the same way you would create any other pages project. And they mentioned Turbo Repo, which is what we're using. NX is something I've used before. Lerna is something terrifying, not just in Greek mythology. But I think that's it. So my only worry is that is this related to this path? So should I also say apps web, SvelteKit, Cloudflare? We'll find out. And we do have some environment variables. I think they don't have the nice Vercel thing where you just copy your .env and you paste it here. But let's see, maybe they do. I will need to do this off screen. Just for a moment. I have a .env.test which you can use as reference on the environment variables that we are working with. But I also have a .env.local which uses local development and staging, let's say, environment variables, and a .env, which is the one I want to paste here. And indeed, I will need to pasting the things individually. So brace yourselves, it's gonna take a while. But we're gonna do it. Maybe there is a way to make this a bit faster. If I remove this from full screen, I have them side by side, maybe a bit faster. All right, database URL, that's fine if it's revealed. Database auth token, that's not fine. If it's revealed, I will need to expire it and cycle my database keys, which is not the end of the world because I use different ones for everyone. But hey, not ideal. A Google Client ID, fine. So Google Client secret. If I saw this, I need to revoke it. GitHub Client ID. Fine. So GitHub Client secret, not fine. So Twitch Client ID, fine. Twitch Client secret, it's the last one. You can guess whether it's fine to show or not. Add a bit more pasting, 3 more things. 3, 2, 1. And I'm gonna click save and deploy, which may lead to a deployment happening before I have the time to refocus the window. But hey, it happens. All right, so hopefully nothing too bad on screen. Build fail, great. We'll see what the problem is. Oh, interesting. How do I change the node version? It seems like it was trying to do 18 node, but I want 20. It's install the required node version, so there must be a way to do this. But before we move on to that, I want to get my code back in place. Right, so this is my .m.test. You can see all the things that I copy pasted, but with just sample values. So they're fine to show. And in package.json, I've defined in a few different places that I want node 20 or more, but it seems there is like a different setting for Cloudflare to actually accept this, which we'll need to figure out. Change settings, maybe here. Oh. Nothing for node here. Cloudflare Pages node version. Check out the Discord. It's not exactly what I wanted. Some live Googling here. Cloudflare usually other tools, including Vercel's build tool, just looks at packetization. We're reading this. It says an environment variable. Okay. So non-env20. Will that change it? Not version is the actual name for this. All right, that actually did work. So we need to specify a node version, and at least it's able to build now. It has created an empty worker as well. Does it actually deploy it somewhere? Not sure. Right, and it seems like we can see it here. Vercel does do confetti when you successfully deploy, which is a big plus. We're not getting confetti here, but you can actually go and check the link. Cloudflare does checkboxes pages.dev.play, which I predicted. Like, it's great that they have the pages.dev domain, and apparently no one else has a project called Cloudflare does checkboxes. So I think this means that Google integration will work. As you may remember from the previous streams, you need to tell Google and Twitch and whoever your auth2 provider is what your callback URL is. And in our case, it's always auth callback Google or GitHub or whichever. But you need to explicitly have this part, and that was just a guess from me. It seems Cloudflare Pages always deploys to this .pages.dev domain, which is quite cool. Like a very, very nice domain. So we've managed to deploy this. Nice. We're saying GitHub integration, like seamless GitHub integration. Every time we push, it should be deploying different, the latest commit. Every time we push to master. And if we do branches, it will also do preview deployments as well. But does it add anything else? So here, if we make this no releases, no packages, we do have deployments. Right, so on this one, it doesn't actually fire a webhook or anything to GitHub to actually say, hey, we've had a deployment run, which also means that it's not running the deployment status event either. So interesting. I would think that this would be one of the one-click things that just work. So any more like GitHub integration? Maybe something on the dashboard we can play with. Integration's better, promising. So this is the one they built. This is the ones they tried to build. Functions, did we have any? Probably not yet. Custom domains, no. Integrations. Is there like GitHub? We have Turso, but we've already integrated with that one. thorough than Vercel on like clicking a button to show things you've already entered, so in asterisks. So yeah, I need to bail out there, and I'll need to cycle this later. But anything else? So we have this thing, we have the monads. There is a Git integration, sure. But I guess it just doesn't run the deployment event, which is kind of interesting. There must be a way to do it, and we'll have a GitHub integration to do this, but I guess I was hoping for more with the few clicks GitHub integration. But hey, maybe something to look further into offline. Yeah, so what I'm saying is that something we did with Trivia Train as well. Whenever there is a deployment, then it populates this deployment section here that says, oh, there was a successful deployment, then this happened. And this is done by our own custom GitHub action on deployment. We're hitting the GitHub API, but in the many projects we've deployed to Vercel, for example, there it's just connect to GitHub and they magically fire the webhooks and do the REST API requests like this to actually specify this preview deployment, made it live, this production deployment, made it live, which also allows for things like other workflows that do depend on a deployment, because the end-to-end tests I want to run against the deployed URL, especially for the preview deployments. So that's something I get from this event. And it seems like Cloudflare Pages by default doesn't do that, but I'll investigate, and there are more things in the agenda because it seems they don't have such a GitHub automation for Cloudflare Workers, for example. So if we want this to happen automatically, then we will need to set up a GitHub action anyway. And maybe, you know, if you set up one GitHub action that deploys to Cloudflare, then why not use it to deploy to Cloudflare Pages as well? We'll see. Right, so do we need to keep anything else? Cloudflare checkboxes, places. Let's spell this correctly, please. So we're here. You can visit this. It's gonna be great. Light, dark mode, all good. What is next? We have a single small tiny checkbox, and this is the one that we want to actually make reactive. So if I toggle this, then for everyone else in the world on this page, it should get unchecked in this regard. Everyone sees it checked, and you can play around with me and see what we can do. And we want more of them. But for that, it seems like we'll need to create a Cloudflare worker, and we'll start simpler by creating a WebSocket pair. So just a server that will be toggling it back for us, and maybe it's like a fidget button, fidget checkboxes. And then we'll see if we can make it to durable objects as well. Let's see. So how to create a Cloudflare worker. You need Cloudflare account. We got this. npm, we're using npm node installed. And new worker project, we can use C3, which is the create Cloudflare CLI. I was like, oh, C3 reminds me of S3. Which product is it? Like, is it the storage product? What is it? But it's just the CLI. And it's saying you can run npm for this. And it will ask where actually you want to create your worker. So let's just go through the wizard and see what we get back. So on the terminal, I'll go to the apps directory, because every app that we have is in this directory. And let's do this. Maybe npm create Cloudflare. gentle firefly. So we want worker. What would we call it? Because it's also the application name, I guess it will have just worker, workers. Naming things is famously hard. Like my app is named, the whole monorepo is named Cloudflare Checkboxes, so I don't want to call this Cloudflare Checkboxes Worker, but we'll see. I guess it will create a template for us that we can work with, amend before deploying. Q consumer and producer worker. Interesting. Coordination and multiplayer API using durable objects. Do we just press this and move on with our life? API starter, open API compliant, not be confused with OpenAI. And from your own template or whichever template you found on the web. So I was thinking that we just do the hello world worker and then move on to the coordination multiplayer API, but maybe we'll upgrade to that one. Not sure. Should we just do this multiplayer API? Does the chat thing? We're trying to understand things, so let's just do the hello world one. TypeScript, yes. I don't want to deploy yet because maybe we'll trash all of this. So yeah, let's see the in there. And let's see, what do we have in this factory actually? So this created this worker directory for us. It has a test with who knows what. With vtest, great. That's what we want. CF types and Cloudflare type generation from the Wrangler configuration tool, I guess. Version 0. A name, the convention that I have is like @repo. It's not a published npm package, this one, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, @repo worker, and we'll change this anyway. So it's got vtest, a specific version of vtest for some reason. It's like latest is 6. This one, did it get the latest one? Not really. You can update it. Wow, what a specific version here. Ah, it's the date. That's neat. That's neat, actually. I've never seen this before. A lot of engineers are wary that we're going to run out of numbers, so they don't like when version numbers go too high. But, you know, you'll never run out of numbers, if we're being honest. All right, so it also added a pre-TRC, which is essential, but because we're in a monorepo, we have our pre-TRC configuration outside of this. A TypeScript config, which I guess we need. React JSX, we won't be using React, but hey. So the good thing is that it seems they've thought of, they've included every single tsconfig option, but also commented why you may want it enabled or disabled. So fair enough. They're not collocating the tests, which is a pattern that I always disliked, and I think most people agree with me. You should collocate the tests. And this one, who knows what it does. Hello world will create a response with hello world unit style, I guess. So it creates an incoming request. Who knows what this is? Ah. All right, so it's just a request, actually. But it's typed a bit harder. Or typed a bit more to be extended for Cloudflare, I suppose. So it creates this request, Then it creates an execution context. So they have utility libraries to test these. Okay. The worker is the one we are exporting in our index file, interestingly enough. So we pass it the request, the environment. Where is the environment? Again, from the test Cloudflare packets, sure. And the context that's created here, and we wait for it to resolve, and then we expect that, oh, we got back hello world, sure. And on this one, we don't pass in the environment and the context. So this is unit test because I guess you pass in all the dependencies, and this one is integration because it integrates with how it gets the environment or the context. So interesting. Nothing in particular for me to say here, other than I do think for most cases, like the snapshots are lazy. So why don't you do like to be string or something? Who knows? So the inline snapshot does literally have these things, sure. And I guess on our web project, web packetization, we also have unit tests with vtest like this, but we call them test unit because we also have different sorts of tests. So for the worker, we just add the vtest suffix. Means a few things. Even at the root of the project, if we pnpmi, it will install dependencies of any project in our monorepo. And if we run npm test unit, I've set up turborepo to actually run all the vtest tests. So you should be able to see read file syncs not get implemented in the workers. Interesting. So the one we had passes, the one they have doesn't pass. So did they very gracefully start with us with a unit test that doesn't actually pass? Interesting. So let's look at our source file. It just returns hello world. So it's not doing much. It's not even using the request, the event, the environment, or the context. So, you know, that's fair enough. I wonder if it needs to be outside the source directory because it's gonna try Cloudflare. It's gonna try to deploy everything that's here. Maybe that's the case. We do have the Wrangler here, saying that this is the main. I think it'd be fine, but I won't sing it for now, like collocating the test. Maybe that's, you know, a valid reason that I don't want to reject scan for not test or something. I just say, listen, my tests are in the test directory, and that's it. Kind of like the playwright tests, I guess. Editor config, they're like, it needs to be like this. I don't know why. Does this affect anything? Probably not. I hope not. I git ignore here that I guess supersedes what we already have. And yeah, let's just in case go into the directory itself. It's just worker. And if I npm test unit in there, I guess it's going to be the same thing. Yeah, it's like read file sync, not working mate. And sure. And did it say like just one test? So if we do this, if we just leave the most unit test, does it work? No. Interesting. And it must be a library that they're bringing in themselves. Warning configuration. Are we doing any read file sync anywhere? No, so it must be a dependency that is doing this. Interesting. So an issue request to raise that, hey, your example vtest code is just trolling us. and no chance that this, like the other test, will pass. Sure. And it's also saying I've requested this. Interesting. Have I really requested this? Sure. But I've requested also this. Is that in the packet session? Maybe it is. Let's update all dependencies. So that's a handy script that I have installed here for the database. We want to update nothing. For the workers, we can update TypeScript and Wrangler. And Vitess pool workers, why not? Let's see if they fixed this thing. So unfortunately, I doubt. Anything else in the packet session? Ah, yeah, they have like this weird version here. Yeah, which is the one, I guess the tests are saying that's the latest one we can have. The 621. So doesn't this mean that this should be 620? I guess. My wife just returned home and my dog immediately woke up and went in like a missile to greet her. Very cute all around. So it's not complaining here. And officially, like the Vitess version is different, I guess. Let's see. So maybe that's on me, actually. I think I did this. Let's use Vitess 1.5. Nope, no more excuses. We're in Vitess 1.6, it says. Ah, right, I remember. So that's the one that didn't have a career, right? And I was like, why did they do this? Are they out of their minds? But usually you find that people have run into problems and thought about this and they make things for good reason. All right, so that was it. You go through the same hooks and then you find out that actually they did this for a legit reason. So apparently, like they're patching something, monkey patching, who knows what they're doing there, but only this Vitess 1.5 that works, and for the latest 1.6 Vitess, their little patch doesn't work, and we have this read file sync. Maybe it's patching read file sync, or who knows. But yeah, they're not trolling us with the tests. They're just like, don't mess with the config if you don't know what you're doing. But that's how I learn. I mess around with things. And we did get rid of this warning. So did I also do this? Maybe. Right, so we have this thing. We create the worker project, we run the tests, we kind of understand what's there. What else did they add? Do we see everything? Yeah, it's just returning a hello world response. This is where we're going to be returning WebSockets and stuff. And interestingly, it has not modules here. Let's remove them. Monorepos should be hoisting everything up on the top level. That's fine. All right. Should be running the worker as well somewhere. Because I guess the packetization for the worker dev is doing Wrangler dev, so our Monorepo thing, when we do dev, it's gonna run this as well. The task is gonna run dev on every project we have. And that's the, what should have been the URL? No output URL there, interestingly enough. Let's remove this for now. Let's run pnpm dev here. That's the other thing. So it needs to ask, like, do you want a list to be dragged? Sure. And then it actually runs. Hello world. Okay. So is there a way to force this to run without anything? Who knows? And now when I run pnpm dev at the root of the repo, it should start everything. So database, this, and the Wrangler, which just returns hello world. All right, we're getting there. Cool. I think that means we've achieved this. But instead of just returning some boring HTML, we want to return something that accounts for a WebSocket connection, because we want our front end to actually talk to the worker and create a WebSocket connection, so we can send our taking of checkboxes there and then get a server message as well when someone else accesses a checkbox. So let's see. We've got the hello world one. My dog, my pup. Come here. Yeah. All right, dog's back. All my confidence. So we may remove the repo that we have here. Marina, do you want a hug? Hug. Opa. All right, always a puppy cameo is good for everyone. Just a little puppy break as we think about what we're gonna do here. If you remember, the wizard had a chat application collaboration game app, a starter there, which seems like the prime use case of what we want to do as well. Summer, you want to say anything? No? Just want to be free? Sure. So we may just delete everything and just use that from the wizard, but just to understand things, we'll start from just creating a WebSocket pair. The idea being on the web project, on the SvelteKit app, we still click the checkbox, plank, and then maybe a few seconds later, the server tells us to toggle it back, to flip it around. And once we have that going and we understand a bit more about WebSockets and how they work with Cloudflare Workers, that's when we'll switch to something more durable, including the durable objects as well. Because the idea is not just for me to talk to a server and have that connection, have the server tell me untoggle it. The idea is the server to be able to tell me to talk to everyone in the world who is visiting this app and tell me if anyone has toggled that checkbox. But again, we'll try to keep increasing the complexity to keep things digestible, and so I understand them as well. So they have an example for the WebSocket pair, which I was listening in client-side JavaScript. We can try to create a WebSocket connection, which we'll do later, I guess, because we want to have our worker actually be able to handle that WebSocket request. What's going to happen if we just do this then, I suppose? So let's have a look at the front end just quickly. Here we have this page. We want at some point to create a WebSocket connection somehow here, but the WebSocket connection will not be this. It has to be something dynamic, and I guess that's where our WebSocket will be deployed to. And I'm not sure what the namespace is going to be here. We'll find out, I guess, eventually. But this is a classic example of an environment variable, because when we work locally, I would want to talk to the local version of this. And that also means that we're going into naming problems, like how do I name this? Like WebSocket server URL, sure. Workers URL, WS server URL, to be explicit. And I guess, can it be like secure? I don't know. I guess locally it cannot be secure, so that's what we'll want. I think we'll find out. And I will update my .env.local. To actually have this. And we'll need to remember our build step to update it with this environment variable. Because the test .env.test, I just want an example here. So I imagine in the future, maybe as an effect, when you first get into this page, we'll be doing something like this. But the WebSocket we're going to be opening is going to be WebSocket server URL dynamic. So for now, it's going to look into my .env.local and find that it's on the local server. But this one should be public, not a private variable. Sure. So I must prefix it with public. All the things we have so far, in theory, well, in practice, only the backend uses. And just for extra safety, even though not all of these things are a danger if they get seen, if they get leaked, we just don't have the public prefix. But this one, if someone looks at the network request, they're going to be able to find out what's the WebSocket server URL we're looking at, and it's fine. It's fine for that to be public. But for Vite, with no extra configuration to allow this to be compiled in client-side code, you need to prefix it with public underscore. So that's another thing to slightly change. And now it's actually public. Bring it in, it's fine, it's public, everyone can use it. But I guess it will have like a network request problem here, that we cannot create a WebSocket connection there because that just returns some HTML. So what are you on about? Cool. Let's move on with the agenda. We have kind of the client-side code. We'll be changing this a lot, but what we want to do is like a bit of a handshake, where in order to upgrade a regular connection, a WebSocket connection, you need to do like all of this boilerplate. There are libraries that do this for you, but I guess why not write it yourself in this context? The last time I used WebSockets was with Socket.io, which is super popular as well, but this is doing it getting closer to the metal, I'd say. We didn't have these APIs either. So let's copy paste step by step, even though they don't have the nice links that tell you, you've added this or you've added that. Let's have a look. We have this other project, the worker project, which has a single source, which exports a default. I think that's the new API that they have. So this makes me feel a bit squirrely, but we'll see. I think it used to be that you needed to have specific names of for your handlers in Cloudflare Workers, but now you can just export default, and that's the thing that's going to get deployed. This fetch thing is making me wonder. Oh well. I can only assume that we need to paste it here. But this is the modern equivalent. It's complaining because if you're not in this case, it's not returning anything. So we keep pasting along. If we've done the upgrade, so if they want an upgrade to a WebSocket, we return the response that allows that to happen. If not, then we create a new WebSocket pair, which they'll have a different way to destructure, a nicer way to destructure like this. So that's the thing I'm going to use. So let's copy and paste that one. So if we are in a WebSocket connection, we create a new WebSocket pair. The client we're going to return with the response, and the server will just going to be accepting requests from the client at this stage. And then I guess all they're doing is also adding an event handler, an event listener for whenever a message is happening, then just log what the client has sent here. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think that's it for the worker. Now on the client side, if there is like hot reloading happening, I guess the WebSocket connection should be fine now. It looks like it is. And this little box, I shouldn't have pressed, I guess. What is about new box? Dev tools for Node.js. Interesting. I hadn't seen that one before. I thought it may have been like a WebSocket specific thing. Actually, looked nice and green. But we can just look for WebSockets, and you can see that we do create this connection here, indeed. So it looks like it's working fine. And whoa, don't want this. It's upgraded to a WebSocket, and then nothing happens because we never send a message back. Which is fair enough. Let's send a message back, I suppose. That's what they're suggesting to do here. We can also client side subscribe to messages and log them out. I think it's important to do some effect cleanup as well, and just close the WebSocket. On this on mounts. And after we've done this, oops, the wrong level of nesting, the effect, you can return something that's going to be the cleanup method. So this is where we want to close the connection. Right, and we can also send messages to the server. So let's send a hello and see what happens. And let's see our logs there. Anything? I need bigger windows here. So that's interesting. I would have expected that message to be logged. Without WebSocket send, it's not asynchronous. But we could be drowned in logs as well. Maybe we need to wait for the connection to happen before we send the message. Maybe. There are other events we can subscribe to, like the connection event. Let's see. Open. So maybe when the connection is open, that's not what we want. That's where we send. Wrong file. Apologies. So here, let's say, instead of the message one, when it opens, that's when we send the hello back. Should be when it's able to receive stuff. All right, actually worked. Yeah, good. And on this side, I guess on every connection is going to send this. Let's see. Yeah, we do get this message back. Sure. So we're receiving a message from the server that has no data object, but it's just a text. Sure. No, it's this. The event data is the string. Could it be an object as well? If we wanted to say checkbox ID or index 1, 0, checked false. Would that happen? Should we stringify this? Is the data always a string? Chrome keeps crashing for me today. It's, as I said, it's a bit weird, but hey. This can be any data type, it says. It can be any data type, depending on what originated the event. Can be a string, a blob, an array buffer, or an array buffer view. So I guess just string infinite should be fine. I guess. So this also raises some concerns on how do you type safe this? How do you say that the message will always be typed like this? But yeah, that'd be interesting to figure out. So once again, I need to check this, set this up. And the idea is when I click this, I send a message to the worker, and then after a while, the worker just tells me to toggle it off. So let's see. Do we need a new chapter there? Sure. So on the million checkboxes as well, they are starting with a loading state that is saying we're loading the checkboxes. So maybe that's a good idea to also do. Would we really pass like 1 million checkboxes over the wire? I guess the answer is yes. They may be doing a trick with virtualization, actually checking how many checkboxes are on screen and only asking for the state of those. But hey, maybe not. So what am I thinking here? I'm thinking that when the connection gets opened, I guess we have no message. Surely we can request the checkboxes, I suppose. Or we could be sending them when the connection opens as well on the server side. And then we start cooking. I guess I would stringify everything here. I can't. This seems like a thing to refactor, to extract into another method eventually. And let's say that our methods will have like a type. Initial state, why not? Maybe switch case on the type. Warn, I guess. So if they do send us a message like this, I guess that's where having packages instead of just apps here, we could have packages types directory that has a contract of what its message should look like instead of defining it in two places. But that's something for me to reflect upon and think about if that's actually what we want to do. For now, I'll just replicate it in a couple places. Let's say types of yes. Play checkboxes methods of a type that can be initial state, and then it has a data that's a record of string to unknown, a payload, I guess. We'll see how we advance this. So this one is always initial state, but it could be something else. Instead of just logging this, maybe I want to set checkboxes. So maybe what I have is like a state checkboxes. And they're saying do a map, interestingly enough, which I guess is the ID. Is this a good idea? Maybe. So the ID of the checkbox and then whether it's toggled or not. Sure. But that's not actually what we're going to do. It's going to start as null. But we can say that this is null or maybe a map. Where it is actually string keys to booleans. Sure. And can we iterate through them? So instead of doing this input, can we say for its literable? Copilot is trying to do something here. So if we have checkboxes, maybe we can iterate through them. Else we can say loading. And then identify this by ID as well. So in React, you have the keys of items when you iterate. In SvelteKit, you have this syntax where you encase parameter in parentheses in the end what you want the unique value to be here. So we don't want that. This is just loading. And what I'm claiming is that checkboxes should be message checkboxes. Message payload, is that what we said? Yeah. Should we check whether this is a map? It be an interface. So let's see that this one maybe string in general, but this one specifically, it's a map of string boolean. And the play checkboxes message is either this generic one, this one, and play checkboxes message is either one of those. So I guess here it will know that this is a map, hopefully. It doesn't. Actually. Although I guess it should. Should I not have the generic methods? I guess. Let's just have the initial state one and add defined ones instead of having a catch-all one. Each one will have a unique name. So we're claiming that this is going to be a map. But nothing really. When it opens, we send a hello. Sure. We could be requesting the state. Should we be adding? I think there is a connection message as well. It could be anything. It's not too handy. What are the generic ones? There must be like connection or something. Maybe Github Copilot is the one who knows. Don't want this anymore. Maybe we need a request state. Like request initial state. Maybe we do a similar thing. So here. And we'll just copy paste these types to our worker. Bring this in. Don't get a string, then also do the same thing. I guess we can put it in here and throw an error. Right, so in here, if it's the initial state, then we want to send a message that has a map of like 1,000,000 checkboxes. Maybe just one to start with. But we just want it to that client. So how do we know who the client is, actually? It's kind of interesting. We'll do that eventually. I guess when we create the connection, then we can create another map there where we say each connection has a unique ID. We send the unique ID back to the user. They send us the unique ID, something like that. And then we only broadcast to them. But I guess for now, I guess it's this client, isn't it? Client send. Or are they using us? It's a pair, so I guess. Right, so if we manage to request the initial state, we should send back this, which actually should be something that has a type initial state. And maybe that's confusing. You should have like initial state request or something, and then the payload back. And are we actually doing this when it opens? We want to send JSON stringify. Copilot does think that we should have a separate event. All right, so we're not loading anymore, so something did happen, but that did something also crash. All right, so this payload is cool, but this doesn't quite work. It tries to help and brings in like crazy libraries. Oh well. Am I returning it as payload here? Yes, good. So it should be this. Which is a map. But what's happening then? Let's inspect the checkboxes too. We are setting it correctly, but there must be something weird we're doing here. How do we iterate on a map on SvelteKit? I thought you just do this, really. But I guess not. After I check this, like let's console log checkboxes get a, because I guess we return this, right? Is this not how you do a map? I think that's likely. So let's look this up. After we have the initial state with a map, we may be able to update the map like faster. So that's cool. That's why I want to use a map here. But this seems the way to do it. Svelte eats map item. Yeah, they want us to spread this. I guess that's maybe what they want. We do support it now, so it should be fine. Map, setting things, blah blah. Oh, they're doing entries. Benchmarks, blah blah. So let's see first if we just do entries here. It's checkboxes, entries. Not the real thing. Not a real thing. So it's here where something is not quite working. Hello. So when this is truthy, we get to here, it's fine. But I guess, I don't think this is actually a map. Are maps JSON parsable? Maybe they're not. Maybe that's the problem. This one has nothing. Sure. But why? Clear. Since we'll be using something else, why am I insisting on this way to do it? So if I were to return like an array, which is just all true. Let's return these things. Complicate things later. And this is not a map. This is just a Boolean array. Data types as well. Boolean array. Now, if we do its checkboxes, all right, we got something. So it does look like it was a problem with the map going over the wire. Maybe it's not JSON parsable. Who knows? Maybe I'm making things up. But we load in the beginning, and then the server sends us the initial state, and then we have a few checkboxes that are all checked. Good. Next step would be I check something, and I tell the server that I've checked this, and then the server does tell me to check it back. So on each one of them, I guess I need to send an event saying that this specific one with this ID should be unchecked. I'm not binding the checked value, so it should not be mutated. This one is not reactive, is the problem, so I can't quite do this. But yeah, one step at a time. The idea is to have the server tell me 5 seconds after I uncheck something to check it again. Which I suppose means this has an ID number and is checked Boolean. And at some point, I may get an event like this. And that would mean the client side here. Console log here. Let's map the checkboxes. We just need their index indeed. And then if their index is the message payload ID, is that the real thing? It will be a real thing for this checkbox state event. Checkboxes break. If checkboxes map through them, and then get this sorted. I guess what happens if we get a checkbox state event before this response? It's a bit of a race condition of whether this is up to date or not. We'll see. These are problems we may avoid altogether by switching to the durable storage solution anyway. That's the thing to make us get to grips with what we're trying to do here. So if the index is the ID, actually, then return the checked value, or else return current is checked. All right. Or never, this may never happen. Who knows? Maybe something like this. Get rid of the squigglies. All right, when does this happen? This, I guess, when we actually toggle a thingy. Do we want to optimistically update it? Maybe not. And maybe yes. The idea is that each one will have an on click. And the on clicks have events, and we can prevent default. Now, if we prevent default, then the state doesn't get updated, interestingly enough. So we can try to send a message to the server. At that point, let's just say this is never null. I guess not. Maybe yes. Nothing resets it to null, so it should be fine. But in the case where they play this, if no WebSocket return, but if there is a WebSocket, we do want to send something. There's a few too many squigglies here. Copilot is almost good. It's like one parenthesis off. Right, so we have the event. I don't know, like it's like SvelteKit, and let's add some $signs. That's reactive, right? Value, you say. So yeah, let's send this. We could have like a little queue of whether you've acknowledged this event or not. But the ID can be the index, I suppose. Send this. Interestingly, if we make it like this, then we can make this be like a generic method because it doesn't depend on this checked or this index. Can write it out of here. Kind of interesting. Sure. But now that means that we want our server to respond to this. And say, all right. Payload will be ID message payload ID. It's like message payload is checked. No, it's what you're telling me. Yeah, I guess here is where we want to flip it, right? So if it's currently checked, we actually want to say not checked. I want to uncheck it. And here, or like, and here, so we get this checkbox state and we broadcast it back. Does this actually work? Not yet. And question is why. This should be happening. Type payload ID is this, say console log, send in Websocket. Yep. We're stringifying this. It's called checkbox state. It is indeed this. Then we're sending this back. We're getting it, and then we're sending back checkbox state, which has a payload. And the status, it is this. We don't need to flip it. We just broadcast this. But how do we handle it on the front end? When we receive the checkbox state event, if we have no checkboxes, we break. But if we do, we reassign the checkboxes according to this. But this is a number, and this is a number. So are we handling this? Right, so we're getting it, but we're getting that it's checked again for some reason. This So the ID is correct, but the checked state is always weird. Let's check this out, I guess. Let's just keep this in line. The index is checked. Let's just make it work. Yeah, all right. So that works correctly. And just for the fun of it, to simulate someone else playing with us, we can set a timeout, I suppose, which we should clear up at some point, but we won't. And say that in like 1 second, send another event to toggle it back. And someone else right, kinda neat. This could be like a range, like to get a random number here. But in theory, I think we're kinda good. We don't want this. We don't want this. And we don't want this. And maybe instead of loading, we can have a spinner here. False checkboxes. Spinner. Okay, listen. Doesn't seem to particularly play a part. Right, we only want this to happen if not checkboxes. It will happen forever. I think this will figure it out eventually, that this cannot be null anymore. But yeah, we have the spinner. Great. Maybe not. What else do we do here? Ah yeah, if checkboxes, we want to do this, of course. Bring this in. All right. And maybe make the checkboxes themselves bigger. Or a bit of a gap. Maybe like a grid. Gap. And I did say 10, so I guess must return 10 here. Or maybe 12. Anyway, we said 10, we'll do 10. From 10 to 100, we'll get there. And we have a section title too. It's, I guess I'll copy for this bulletin. All right, so we have these guys, they get clicked back onto us. Maybe let's make this like a bit slower. Pop back in, pop back in. All right, kind of fun. Any more logs? Not really. So let's do the Fancier and checkboxes to make them potentially bigger. Then let's make a commit. So we did create the worker, which is neat for sure. We cannot push this because I need to deploy the worker and see where we get to. And yeah, I won't deploy this worker just yet, because we may actually delete everything and go back to the wizard, which gave us an example for a game worker with shared state, which seems like the one we actually want to move forward with if we have the time. Cool. This is gonna fail. So I guess let's just delete this, I guess. It's a decent example, to be honest. But hey. See. Oh, and we don't need to set up the worker at all. Interesting. Cool. Okay, so we don't need these guys with the integration test. That's kind of neat. Good to know. And yeah, so we did all the worker stuff, which we may soon change. Worker, which returns checkbox state and toggles them back. I'm not going to push this because I would need to have this deployed and have that new environment variable for where the WebSocket server is. And I don't have it now. So let's move on to this one, making the like a bit of UI after all of this. Let's make the checkbox a bit fancier using SADC and checkboxes. Not the fanciest in the world, though. The fancy ones. I guess you can just see CSS checkbox if we just search for something like this. Beautiful examples. Switches are different. I like this one. Let me know if you want toggles or switches or whatever you call these. That would be fun to do. That would be another game that we can play. Plonk. 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 This one you don't need to miss. I love this one. Actually. What a pretty face. Happy face. Right, so the SATCN one is more utilitarian. A lot of SATCN is meant to be like your dashboard app. Very productivity focused. So just this, you know, not checked, checked. That's it. That's all you need, really. So let's bring it in. Terminal. And the checkbox one. Don't do it. For this one, we do need to go to the web app. Try again. Get the checkbox in. Cool. Let's see what we actually brought. Checkbox.svelte. This guy. It's using Svelte 4, but it looks like we can do a simple enough spreading. Let's see. We don't have Svelte radix either, but I don't think I have second minus components. Not. So the -1 for the indeterminate state, I guess. Which one can we use? We have a few icons. Have the cross, which is not what we want. Let's go to Eponymous. Search for minus. It's that one. Go to SVT on D, paste it. Not convinced. Paste harder. Doesn't look like this one works. My copy seems to be working, so maybe it's like this app. Yeah, it's not actually copying. Because I'm on the other SVT. That's not what I want. I want the SVT. Right. So let's paste this. Go to our project. Copy whichever. Check one. Rename this to minus. Copy. Paste. These things can paste here. That's it. Now on our checkbox component, we can bring in this local minus component. And that should be fine enough. But let's try to use it and then we can SvelteKit it. So this one, just use like this, I guess. Just a simple checkbox. You can give it an ID or anything you can give to any other checkbox. You can bind checked values if you want. Guess all I want to do is here, instead of rendering this input, I want to render a checkbox. I think I want to bring in the index file. That's the point of the index files that they're making us use. No need for a type. Give it an on-click. Great. Nice and rounded because of the border radius. Interesting. Kinda interesting. Yeah, if I click the same one many times, I get the many events back, which is fun. All right, so let's SvelteKit it. I guess this doesn't get children, doesn't have slots or children. So, what other component works like that? Is it the button? Doesn't have children. The props should be this. Those have events, I guess. No need for this. The checked one is a special one because checked is bindable. Special rune. False to bindable. Class name we handled. No variants or sizes or anything like that. Those have rest props. So here if we test spread this and we bind checked, then we're good to go. Or I guess we just spread props. No, bind checked and rest props. And I think that should work the same, but it's now Svelte 5. Which is great. Good. And I guess the size would be here on the variants, like we'd make these bigger, but hey, just this one is fine. We may have like a million of these, literally. So let's not go too hard. It does feel like we need even more columns here. Which means we may need like inline styles. Like for how many? Like, would we need a grid? Maybe this would be better. And what does the server do again? So this one, I think I can have like this shorthand method where I can say that I want 100 items. And then map them. And then math random indeed. And see what happens there. So what happens is that we scroll forever. But in the UI, if we do like a flex wrap, thought that would do it. Because by default this is flex call, right? No, it's flex row. This is what we want. Flex wrap, Johnny, not flu wrap. Come on. So now we have like this grid. Which doesn't the message, is it like more laggy or not? Looks fine. Should we do like 1000? Yeah, that one took a bit longer to render. But the update looks fine enough, even though it's not the most efficient update in the world, because we are iterating through every item in the array just to reassign the one, which isn't great. And we are rendering like quite a few things unnecessarily. So what else should we do here? So instead of mapping, let's say checkboxes index if not checkboxes or not checkboxes, methods payload ID, this is what we want to change, and then signify that this has changed. We want to do this. It's more performant. I guess not. Yeah, so you can see the UI tagging, but at least, so this doesn't signal the update, unfortunately. I'm wondering which one is more performant. Sorry, assignment here, so Svelte will know that something has changed. And then it works. It's not better, who knows? That's something to benchmark for sure and see if it's any better. But we'll switch to using something better in any case. This is the reason I want to use a map, because you can, in a faster operation, get and set a specific number signaling to SvelteKit that that's what you want to do, sort of mapping through the whole thing. When you've got a million of these, it adds up. Another thing to talk about is virtualization, so only rendering the ones that are on screen, so like half of them. But even now, you know that if we had 10,000, that wouldn't be great. That would take a while, so we would need to consider virtualization. So even though SvelteKit is better by default at these things than React, for example, you still are not scot-free. When you're dealing with a process like this, you will need to think about virtualization, some other ways to specifically tell the browser, actually only render these items, do not render literally everything. I think for now, we'll just do like a number like 156 or something, which seems good enough for demo purposes for now. And it still updates. This will take longer when you're actually talking to a server for this. Cool. Oof. Even the theme toggle is tagging a little bit. Too many stateful things in there. I imagine without SatCN, this would be a bit more performant, because now we are binding in a value here. Not sure. I like that they have a little shadow. That's more obvious in light mode. Anyway, on to the next thing. And think about serverless state with durable objects. Or should we do like the Github Actions deploy? I'm not sure, actually. I think we will want to do the serverless state first. See that example, because maybe we'll be deleting everything. And then maybe leave the next for Friday. Or if you don't want to see more of this, we can go back to Trivia Train or something else like the CMS that people have been wanting to see. That's going to be the next project. This is like a 1 or 2 off that I thought would be fun, just to get to grips with Cloudflare itself, Cloudflare Pages especially, Cloudflare Workers, and Websockets. And let's see these durable objects of them. So they have quite a few docs on this and quite a few examples, but I'm wondering, the example that they have for their transactional storage API, I guess, maybe. One of the examples they have is for a chat application, which is not quite what we want, but similar. And I guess it's available on paid plans, so maybe we'll need to fork the £5 to make this happen. But we'll see. The thing we've noticed is that when we started the wizard for Cloudflare Workers, and they asked us, do you want a demo example that uses durable objects? And we said, no, we want to write our own thing. We are our own person. But maybe now is the time to revisit this. So here, back in this page, in the Getting Started page, they talked about the Cloudflare CLI. So if we just go one folder up, and in the worker directory, what if we just delete it? And we run the CLI yet again. That may be fun. And we do want to create the application in worker yet again. But we want the coordination multiplayer API. TypeScript, yes. And let's see what we get this time. I should mention, we have a database for authentication. We could be doing this using a database or even a real-time database or a database with real-time capabilities like Supabase, which may be the easiest way to do this, really. But I can only imagine the bill would be eye-watering for that one. Do you want to deploy? Oh, I want to check it out. So let's see what they brought us this time. Editor config, which we don't want. As we've said before, pre-IRC, which we don't want. Packetization, which we do want. Which is, I guess, slightly different in this version. There is a newer version of this, but it was complaining, so maybe we need to manually get in there. This one doesn't have retest set up, interestingly enough. Kinda interesting. And the wrong version of TypeScript. The worker configuration, my durable object. I guess this one is gonna be the one that has the checkboxes logic. Compatibility date is this, sure. So I guess maybe we can use that one, or there was nothing there. But we'll see. Like, I won't mess with things this time. Maybe it will just work. And this is the one that I can only assume I'll need to mess with to create a durable object that represents our checkboxes, which I guess are things that will have like IDs and is checked state defined by this. tsconfig we've been through before, but interestingly, even that one has changes. Non-node modules, this should be at the top level thanks to Turborepo, workspaces. So yeah, the dev steps here. Start is also dev, interesting. Deploy is a different thing. And let's see what's doing here. The index is also defined as durable object. I guess it's a key value store. On the chat example, they had like a rooms thing. It's saying that in this key, we have this thing which has nothing. Remote procedural call method, it says here. Yeah, I think this may be, like, we'll go over this, and this may be where we're gonna call it. Because where are the stubs needed? Who knows? Trying this, we'll start this, sure. We will need to pay to actually deploy this, interestingly enough. And they have the links to the durable objects in general. So I'm thinking, what can I put in here? Is it anything that's JSON serializable? Maybe. This one is binding to a bucket. That's fun. Message queue even. Interesting. But yeah, how do you actually interface from this? I don't know. In the example of rooms, then the user would try to enter a chat room, and they would give, I guess, this server the room they want to enter, and then they'll search for all the durable objects to see which one it actually is, and then it gets handled. And then it gets the state of it, I suppose. Yeah, we'll need to read up on this to see how this would translate to something that holds IDs. But maybe the ID is just this, I guess, this part. And the value, which is just true, false. So we also have the indeterminate state, which would be fun to do. The halfway state. I think that nothing has clicked. It is indeterminate. When does this happen? Let's check. They don't say. Some things in the beginning are like indeterminate, and then the moment you mess with it, then it changes. Is it here? Ah, there you go. Checked equals indeterminate. Wow, that's quite custom, actually. But let's see how it works. Checked equals indeterminate. So the first time you would be getting the checkboxes, they would look like this. But of course, the WebSocket server that we had is now down, so we cannot actually do this. Whoops. Should we deploy the silly server that we had before? I guess that would make sense. And would allow people to play around with this. So that's what we'll do. So this one becomes endurable objects, as mentioned before. The thing we have now only talks to yourself. It kind of simulates that someone else is clicking around, but it's only, the server is only talking back to you to click things. And this one would allow everyone in the world to have the same state. Everyone in the world would be seeing the same checkboxes, which is neat. So let's forget this ever happened with this different example. Let's password changes. So we're back to having our worker here. And how does this understand? Ah, this is the name. So what should we call this? If anything. Let's say password checkboxes pair worker. Should we also call it Cloudflare checkboxes pair? Let's call it. Don't even know. So we have this, we have all these examples. I think this will just make it happen, really. Let's npm dev. Run all the servers locally. It works, we're getting them, pinging back. I think I wanted to say exact equals indeterminate. Looks like this. Quite ugly, to be honest. Right. So let's deploy this. Let's deploy manually, which I guess we can do with npm deploy. This, sure. So in this directory, the worker directory, npm deploy, and see what happens. No project was selected for deployment. Whoops. Interesting. npm run deploy. All right, that was it. It gets us the Cloudflare dashboard, because I guess we need to create something. Sure, integrate with Wrangler. Great, close the browser window. Close every window in the Word. Our CLI is saying deployment ID should be version ID. Ugh, so that's the Websocket version. Maybe, like, it has to be because we have a Pages project that's like this. No, maybe it's just namespace, not sure. So let's go to Cloudflare dashboard and see that we most likely to have a new workers project here. This is the pages one, and this is the checkboxes one. And will every time I deploy this end up in this URL? I imagine the answer is yes. Oh, I can change this. Oof. Right, I'm not going to change this. But I was just curious. What else do I actually want to see? The deployment ID. Like this warning, like version ID. I guess that's something with their CLI. I don't think we need to change anything here. This thing, we just change the name. Oh no. It happened. Let's pretend we didn't want to do this. And try again. The spelling mistake in Cloudflare. Been doing it all day. Cloudflare. Right, so my yeah, it's J for J Monorepos, I guess. Interesting. Neat. This one, can I just delete it? Manage. Delete. Easy enough. I thought it'd be a bigger hassle to do this. But anyway, the idea is we have this URL, and you may remember that we've added the public WebSocket server URL, and I want my local file to keep pointing locally, but I want the production deployment to point to this one. So I will move this over to this window. Not all of it. Let's go back to Notion. Here we are in this step in the agenda, deploying the production worker with Github Actions. We didn't actually do this. So manually deploying the production worker, and then we'll do the automated deployment as well with that one. But for now, I guess we did deploy it, but I need to update the environment variable to point where that worker is. So I'll go to my Cloudflare checkboxes pages thing, and in settings, they have all the environment variables. Different ones for production and preview deployments, which is kind of fun. And I want to add a new one for public WebSocket server URL. And the value is going to be this. I see they have like an encrypt button here. That would have been helpful. And secret. And this one is also public. So save those. They're going for visible by default, I guess. And I'll do the same for the preview deployments, which we haven't done any. All right. So with this updated, I think if I just put something, then the app should build, and the live app would be able to make the WebSocket connection. Let's see, that'd be exciting indeed. This one I need to close. the OBS. I want to open layout. And this is where having those that GitHub integration, where it would tell me whether this was successfully published or not, would be handy. But I have to assume it was. Oh, there is something missing there. So they are telling me that the deployment is this. Great. It is giving me even the preview URL, which is also great. But I guess it's not firing those deployment status events. Oh well. Hello, my dog. We're almost done. You will get what you want very soon. So we did deploy. Samarina, wait. Be patient, my cute doggy. So it was Cloudflare checkboxes pages dev. We'll click play, and then here we are. And the server is the one that told us which ones are clicked or not. And did it respond back with like a back click? I guess it didn't. Something must have happened though. Because we get the initial checkboxes, so we must be sending this somewhere. Ah yeah, the server tells us this, but the timeout is not happening. The clap back is not happening. My dog is beyond herself. And she's doing the trick where she goes into MMA mode, where she just goes on the ground, and I'm not able to topple her and hug her and bring her up on screen. Oh well. So, something to look into. You can play around and click around and see how well it works on you or not. And I'll see how costly this is for me. I do put budget limits on all of those services. This is a pro tip for sure. If it goes over like $5 or $10, then shut it down. So I think even if you try to play around a little bit, that should be fine. So you are invited to. What else do we need? We manually deployed this. We verified this. This a bit of a wonder why it's not clapping back with with an is tagged. I wonder if the timeout is not working. And we're sending this, we're getting this back, all good. But the timeout never fires. So I wonder if there's something about creating timeouts in there. And the initial one with like 1 million checkboxes is there. Fair enough, it looks all right. Initial state request, the response, and then whenever we toggle something, we get back. Just to show it again. It's this timeout that seems to never fire, interestingly enough. Oh well, something to find out for sure. Something to investigate later. Again, this is not the production solution. We will be moving to join Anti, there's Cloudflare Cheekiness. Cloudflare Cheekiness. Feel free to go here, click around. If you make an account, nothing changes. You may be able to see the fun toast that we have. Long. This is fast. But yeah, that's this part. Next part, how do we automate deploying this? There is a GitHub action for this that Cloudflare themselves have created. So we can just copy this one. I guess we'd need to generate a Cloudflare API token and ideally only run this if there are changes in a specific directory, which I would love if I could ask GitHub Copilot to tell me this is how you only run this when there's been a change in like this part of the code base. I think Turbo does have this actually. But GitHub Copilot has let me down with GitHub Actions recently. So let's see. Let's copy our prod migrations. Maybe. Make it a deploy Cloudflare worker to production. We deploy worker. Working directory may need to be the apps worker directory. That would make sense. And then I guess in the steps, we just need these to happen. And we need to create this token as well. Wrangler action is the one we're looking at. Latest is 3.7. Great. Checkout latest is before. Great. What else do we need here? Oh. We can also do this, I guess. Is this a better way to do a working directory? Maybe. Let's try it out. Since it is in the examples. Any secrets that we don't want? Any stuff? We can also use this to deploy our pages side. So I wonder if this would get us the deployment status action for event for free, or if we need to do something programmatic with the GitHub API again, but I don't know. Oh, there you go. Using this variable. That's the one that I will want to use at some point. If they were deploying, if they were creating a deployment status event, the playwright end-to-end test would be getting this one, as we've mentioned before. But my question is to GitHub Chat, GitHub Copilot. Changes in the apps worker directory of this repo. Let's see if they have something interesting to tell us. Interesting. This looks simple enough. It's claiming it's gonna work. Cool, I guess. So what remains is to get an app token. API token, secret stuff again. Apparently I need to go to my profile, API tokens. Can use a search bar to get there. Can create a token. Oof, there are some templates. Deploy. It's this one. Use template. Edit Cloudflare workers. They have a few templates, and one of them is for editing Cloudflare workers, which I guess includes deployments, key value storage, scripts, routes, count settings for read, Cloudflare Pages, sure. Yeah, I'll just save this, assuming the select zones. An account resource they want here. All accounts, all zones is what they want, sure. Create a token. It seems there is no way to just say do this by GitHub. And we can confirm it's working correctly. But what I actually want to do is paste it into GitHub. So I'm gonna go to our Johnnify org repo, Cloudflare checkboxes, go to settings, go to secrets and variables, go to actions, go to secrets, paste it in, and the name is gonna be Cloudflare API token. And add the secret. Great. This should mean that if I reload the window, it will recheck GitHub again, and it will know that this exists, but not show it because it's secret. If it was a var, it will actually show it, which is kind of fun. So for prod migrations, you can see the database URL. You can actually see it in line here, which is super neat. But let's see. CI. Just deploy Cloudflare Worker when its settings change. And if I push this, then the action should not trigger, because I didn't change anything in that directory. This one has no runs. Great. It seems the other ones are gonna run. But I guess let's try to do the upgrade all dependencies thing. Not this one. Maybe this one. We don't want this. So nothing to update, sadly. Let's change the timeout. Let's see, maybe 5 seconds is too much, so let's do 1 second. It's maybe fine. I guess it's the time that this stays alive, I guess. Maybe. There is a chance this will work. So I'm gonna take the chance. But most of all, I want this to deploy again and see it happen. So let's double check. The action did not run, like Copilot suggested. One part was it shouldn't run when no related files have changed. Now it's second part of the question. Will it run now that related files have changed? And it looks like the answer is yes. It is going to try to do it. So that's quite neat. The first time it ever runs. Takes a while. It's the longest one as well, which is another reason why you would only want to run it if the worker has been updated. Another one was that its state will reset every time you deploy. Cool. So does this still work? Another thing that Vercel does is that it does update this URL for us. But now we have to manually do it like savages. Anyway, here we are again. Here are the checkboxes. They don't clap back yet, but I guess the server does send the initial connection, so that's something. There are also some things about WebSockets to toggle in the Cloudflare dashboard that maybe I need to toggle, but since I do get this initial checkbox state, I'd imagine that it's fine. I don't know, not sure. So that one worked. We did talk about virtualizing, but we're not going to solve it yet, especially like when you have a million checkboxes, you wouldn't want to actually render everything in the DOM because the browser will become unresponsive. Even my browser running on a system that few users are gonna have. So this has an M1 Ultra, it's a Mac Studio. So if this cannot handle this, it's gonna be a problem. Total sec count, maybe we could do this, I guess. So that's another thing that now that we only have a few checkboxes, relatively speaking, we can easily calculate. But if we are at the moment where we have a million, you wouldn't want to run this calculation every time. So we can have like a let checked count be derived from checkboxes, reduce them. That's doing it. I think so. So my reduce is gonna return a number. The accumulator is gonna get the check of everything, and then I guess it says return accumulator plus, is it checked, +1 or 0? Start with 0, and I think that's it. Accumulator and is checked. This one, what's the problem? Oh, too many parentheses there. So I think that should be fine. And in the UI, localhost, we could say at the end, or where, I'm not sure. Maybe on the legend. have checkboxes. Then we can render this. And maybe this is a bit smaller. Next, cell font. Normal. Maybe in parentheses. All right, so we get this back. Why doesn't this update? So I guess it must be ShadCN that is making this be uncontrolled. Can I bind this? I think we said that we cannot, because this is not bindable. Yeah, now the server is not responding back, it seems, with the checked value, so you can't actually check them. Interesting. You can uncheck them. Are we actually getting a WebSocket message there? And it's the local one, so we should be getting a WebSocket message indeed. And I see this clapping back indeed, but this doesn't seem to quite work. Interesting. We are sending this, but this never updates. If we do this, it does update immediately. But even locally, it doesn't update back, interestingly enough. So there must be something weird that I didn't do. Did I forget to like PNP money or something? That's the timeouts that seem uncommon. So bind checked was kind of fine. For the optimistic update, let's look at the server again. Worker index. So this thing, does this ever run? Doesn't look like it. But wait, did I update my .env.local as well? That's one last thing to check. Like, am I talking to the production worker actually? No, I'm talking like locally. I'm talking to the local one. Did I forget to add an extra S for this? Maybe. For the WebSocket connection, should it be WSS? So that's the last thing to change. See that this doesn't ever update here, so I don't like that for sure. Trickier than expected because we had messed something up, looks like. So the play page, this one, we were saying that we can only bind this if we point this to checkboxes index specifically. And then it should just work, but this kinda never updates. Those update when we uncheck. And according to the logs, just never getting this message. Like this message. What's that about? Restart the server, sometimes it works. This is there, sure. And then, like, we get the state, so it should be fine, but message received, great. Send in message, blah, 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 happen. And this immediately claps back. Who knows why? Anything else crazy we did with this? I guess the answer is no. Is this kinda weird? If the checkbox primitive doing something it shouldn't be doing. Collapse back immediately. The sending message one. Should be happening. And we did this happening indeed. Changing how often it happens doesn't really affect things. Is it responding to this? That's the problem. So we do immediately get it back, which is fine. All right, so that's halfway interesting. We're clicking this and we're getting that this should be true, and then it goes back to false, but that's not what we really want. It's the opposite. See, it seems that's the thing that's not quite respected. And it's the binding of the variables that's messing something up. Is it this that we should be looking at? In this case? Triplet. It will never be null, surely. We should send a message of false eventually. Send a message of true, and it's getting a false back eventually, but it shouldn't. Not sure. I'll just use the checked state here and hide that we can't really derive this. So interestingly, this derived one doesn't understand that the checkboxes has changed. So I must be doing something wrong here to reassign the state. I just do the index map again. I guess. Alright, so now we know what's happening. We seem to be back in business. I was afraid to do this loop for performance, but I guess I was just messing things around worse. At this point, we know that this is gonna be like this. And we don't need to bind anything. So maybe that was the problem, actually. Random timeout. Blah, blah, blah. I could have done it faster. Especially if I need to be precise here. All right, so some variance here for the fun of it. If we did do this correctly. And any more console logs we have. We added this, added this, added this, done this. I'm gonna call this user active state better. So we could make like a voting app for this as well. Splatoon style, maybe 3 things, which one gets your vote, and people can try to make one win. I like community events like this. But I think this is gonna be it. 3 hours and a bit in. We will see if this will work. I think with updating the address bar, it's something that the other app with millions of checkboxes was doing. They were showing the number of the checkboxes that are checked here, which we could do, for example, using the meta special element. But this could have like a slight problem because we also define this in the layout, and I'm not sure if SvelteKit is managing nesting these, like when these reappear. I'm not sure if it's managing it well. So I would need to have a look and see how that actually worked. Maybe we could do it. Github Actions, this thing. Hopefully the end-to-end tests are not running against the worker. Cloudflare Worker. Alright, did it actually work? Yes. Does this clap back? Yes. Oh, alright, here we go. Server is alive. I was just messing things around. Sir, something else that I want to check on the dashboard, like Cloudflare dashboard, is am I specifying an WSS WebSocket connection? Which maybe the answer is no. But again, it's going to be on the environment variables. Manage. Nope. Settings. Environment variables. Oh, in the WebSocket server, I call it HTTPS. It's not correct. It's way wrong. Maybe that was the problem. All right, so one last thing to do. Let's update that address bar. Here we just say play checkbox, Cloudflare checkboxes. Maybe what we want. Maybe all we need is a different title here. So it has its own component. It's a special Svelte component called SvelteKit. It does magic. Hello. New title just dropped. And we do see it update here. And even when we navigate in the pages, it seems... right. So if we navigate from a different URL, then the layout changes this, unfortunately. If we are directly in this page, then this changes. But I wonder if we are using a reactive value, will this update? Let's see. Let's see. And the page store is a read-only store. So I won't just be able to change whatever the layout is using for this. Like I cannot just write to this, unfortunately. So let's say page data is derived, and it's something like this. And it's check count and then I use this here. Page data meant page title. Cool, it flipped out a little bit, but it should be fine. So I can see that when we go here, it does update correctly. The number will always be what we're beginning, like eventually with the timeouts, but you can see it update. And if I go to it from a different page, thanks to the reactive value, it does update again. So yeah, that's one way to do it. Neat. So deploy this last thing, confirm that it's not running, it's not redeploying the worker either. And then let's do a final demo and call it a stream. I do have more iced coffee for me to drink. I have a dog to feed if she wasn't fed already, and to walk and play with, for sure. It is pleasure. So let's look at the actions. The deploy Cloudflare Worker action only deployed a couple times, last one 6 minutes ago. So it seems that GitHub Copilot was correct this time. Good. Let's go to the deployed one. Play. You can see this here. It's asked about in my address bar that it does list how many are toggled, and it does update, but the server often replies fast by toggling it back on. So it seems to work. Maybe it was that they didn't have WSS as the WebSocket prefix there, connection. Although I guess they must be upgrading to the correct one. But yeah, it seems to work. Click around and let me know how you like it. So I guess the recap was done. I will do like another final one. What we did today was replicate this 1 million checkboxes website, or a little bit. We try to replicate the idea behind it and see how we can use things like WebSocket to render this. You'll notice that checkbox is rendering quite fast after like not ideal, but pretty good. I've seen this website be down as well, but I think they've done a really good job. And I can only imagine they're using virtualization to only render the checkboxes that they need here. And I have noticed that they are specifying an interesting height for this div, like 500,000 height. Interesting. I've also seen this use a scientific notation with E5, like 10 to the power of something. So it can get quite big. Maybe it's because my browser window is a bit smaller now. So now this must have gotten even bigger. And you can see it's having a bit of trouble since I have this open too. But anyway, when you see a specified height, that's a classic sign that they're using virtualization, because they want the scroll bar to be as big as it should be if you really had 1 million items rendered in there. But in reality, they really don't want to render 1 million items. So they cheat, and they have the height, the expected height of 1 million items in there. That would result in 1 million items actually being there, but they only render the ones according to the position that you're in. So that's an interesting thing to... Ooh, will these stay? Did we manage to go to a place that no one is looking at? Let's say subscribe. Some of them are have interesting focus as well. That may be a bit naughtier than subscribe. But hey. Clearly, I like these games, and I am capable of spending quite a bit of time just clicking around, making smiley faces and stuff. Anyway, we've talked about how this could be accomplished, and we've replicated some of the functionality there. Although we didn't take into account virtualization, we didn't take into account having this be a real global state. These are next steps that we may get to on Friday if you did think that there are interesting problems to solve and that's what you want to see me cover, or else we can go back to Trivia Train, or we can do a CMS app. As always, let me know in the comments, let me know in the Discord as well what you'd like to see the most. I love showing things that people find interesting and useful, and that's something that caught my eye, and I really thought that getting into it and talking about WebSockets and the various solutions that Cloudflare offers as well was pretty good. First time we've shown Cloudflare on screen besides the Cloudflare registrar, and we've talked about that there are some features like UX DevX features that Vercel has, for example, that Cloudflare is missing. But again, maybe you do pay for that extra polish with Vercel with actual money, and with Cloudflare you pay with, you know, finagling with the documentation a bit more. With the workers, I was like slightly concerned because it did seem like a few of the examples were using a different version of what is now used with Cloudflare workers. Some of the examples were talking about using a request handler, and then they had these objects that have a default export and a fetch method. So this is the thing that I don't want to see when the documentation is not matching up with the reality. But the other quality of life developer experience features that Vercel has, like copying the whole .env and pasting it into as environment variables, I think that's neat. Like, it's not gonna set you back because it's not gonna be something that you'll be looking for hours and you won't be able to find a thing, but it's just a little thing that saves you a bit of time and makes you feel nice. Anyway, is that worth the price? Who knows? I'll keep tabs on how expensive this is to operate as well. Click around as well. Even though we're not using the persistent storage, the durable object solution, which we may get to on Friday. All right, I think this is it. So yeah, we've created this. We've shown that with too many checkboxes, even the dark mode gets a bit squirrely. But it seems to be able to handle 256 of them just fine. We are sending a WebSocket message to the server whenever we click a checkbox, we toggle it. And then to simulate the real-time collaboration functionality that we'll have in the future, we have the server wait from half a second to 3 seconds and toggle it back as if a user is like waiting for us, checking what we're checking, pun unintended, and then clicking it back. And it's the server that provides us with that initial state as well, with how many checkboxes we actually start as checked. And I guess that's a nice check for the random number generator in JavaScript that you cannot seed without the library, by the way. That's a different tangent. Whether, like, how often we get around 50% that we need to check now that this is just randomized. Anyway, I digress. It's been interesting, for me at least, to run this. Let me know if it was interesting to you or what you'd like me to cover next. I will bid you a very lovely goodbye for now and renew our appointments for Friday. We do these twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. Next one is Friday. Have a lovely evening and I'll see you around.